Welcome, Nesco Nation, to this week's episode of Higherside Chats. Today we are being joined by my friend Will Sowers. He has a very interesting background of skills. So thank you for joining us, Will.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So you have a very interesting story from kind of where you are. I know you're in real estate now. You spent some time as a touring musician. I feel like it'd be a story that not everybody gets to hear, and definitely not everybody has, on how you kind of went from one area to another, as well as being able to kind of teach our viewers, which is a lot of our internal employees, as well as anybody else out there viewing, a little bit more about the real estate world and give some tips and tricks on that as well. So I guess we can kind of start off from the beginning and learn a little bit more about your experience during the journey that got you to where you are today. So I guess to get that all started, what originally got you into music and made you want to pursue that as a career?
Man, music was in my life from day one. Both my parents met doing music back in late 70s. They were doing a show called Stephen Foster's Story, which is in Bardstown, Kentucky. It was a famous composer of my old Kentucky home. So it was the love story about them. My dad played Stephen Foster. My mom was the leading lady love interest, and that's actually how they met and fell in love. Fairy tale.
Cool.
So growing up, there was always music in the household. Dad was always playing something. Mom was always singing. And it was in my blood. I loved it from day one. So classically trained my whole life until I started getting my own personality and finding myself and realizing that I didn't want to play Beethoven. I wanted to play Norma Jean and heavy metal and all the angsty stuff I could. And convinced my dad to take me to a pawn shop, buy a bass guitar, and I never left that bass guitar. So fast forward a few years and signed a record deal when I was 19. Formed a band in Kentucky that went on to have, they're still going today, so a pretty solid career. Sold a few 100,000 singles and 4 Billboard Top 200 records. Went on to play music with other people. Civil Twilight, band from South Africa. And then some of the Collective Soul guys, we had a side project together for a few years. So did the band thing and did the hired musician thing as well.
That's awesome. So you kind of had that whole full spectrum there on.
Yeah, understatement and a half.
As a younger kid and then doing it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice to break away from the classical side of things and the formal training and just kind of get into a creative space with music. So
sure, kind of making it your own at that point.
Absolutely. Still taking the influences, but making my own art at that point.
Awesome. So I guess what would you say some of your favorite things were, I guess, being a touring musician, kind of going around shows?
Definitely the travel. The people was always number one. I got to meet and talk to people I never would have come across in any other life. So very grateful for that opportunity and learned so much from each and every person, especially from different cultures and how they went about their day to day, what even their policies in place with their government, what kind of worked for them, and looked at things that were broken in the U.S. and things that were working in other countries and wondering what the hell we're doing.
Fair. So, after going through all that, there were obviously a lot of positives. When, I guess not so much it came to an end, but when you started thinking more about like, I want to get into something different, I want to start going more the, I guess you could call it corporate lifestyle.
Yeah.
That kind of got you starting to think more about that and moving away from music as a career?
So the first spark was when Emarosa, my first group that I co-found, had a lead singer who had some substance abuse issues, and learning that one member could impact 5 other people's career and future was a harsh reality. And I never wanted to have my future in the hands of someone else ever again. So that's kind of when I started taking the hired musician role, to where, at least I'm contracted out per gig. A little more stability and a little more control at least. But when I started doing that, started playing with Collective Soul guys, Dean Rowland, who's one of the brothers, we became very close. And that dude's been touring since he was 19 years old. He's now late 40s. Don't kill me for saying that, Dean. But so he's had quite the run and a very successful career. 14 million plus records sold. They still play to sold out thousands of crowds every night. But he's not the happiest with, being dependent on the band he and his brother created 20 some odd years ago. I think he'd like to have a little more independence, a little more control over his day to day, because when you're in your late 40s and someone else tells you you have to accept this tour or whatever,
sure.
You got to drop everything and go.
Right. So
I knew through those two experiences that music wasn't my long-term goal, at least.
Okay. So now I know we've talked a bunch about it in the past, but did you jump right into real estate, or did you do anything else in between the music career? Or?
Oh yeah, I was lost as could be after music. Really seriously had no freaking clue what I wanted to do. So the way I figured out what I wanted to do was by dipping my toes in a bunch of different pools. I first started working as a music therapist with traumatic brain injury. So taking my music skill into, more of a corporate world. Mm-hmm. Didn't have a passion with that, and definitely didn't have the mental stability to deal with some of that you really have to see and work with every day with your patients. After that, I thought I maybe wanted to go to law school and do entertainment law. So I started working in law firms and learned very quickly that definitely wasn't the right route for me. Then I went to school for pre-dental for 2 years. Started interviewing for dental schools. Realized I was just chasing a paycheck and that I didn't want to be staring into meth mouth all day. Tried out real estate and freaking loved it. So it really was just try and fail, not necessarily fail, but try and see if it works for you. And I think that's the only thing any of us can do is just try and see if it can.
Oh, yeah. Especially for those who don't know exactly. I mean, like you said it before, you don't know exactly what you want to do. You could be lost, or you could just be unhappy. And best way to do it is try everything. See what works. See what makes you happy. Because if you're not happy doing what you're doing every single day, it's going to be a chore, and you're going to be miserable. So
I learned very quickly that if I wasn't happy, I wasn't going to see the monetary reward that I wanted. So there's no way to force yourself to, drudge through crap and put out a great valued product that people are going to want to pay a premium for.
Right. So once you started getting into real estate a little bit more, I guess some of the things you learned when you were touring and probably in all the other jobs you tried out were somewhat relatable. But once you got a little bit further into real estate, did you notice that anything from your past experiences jumped out as more transferable skills, or was it something almost completely new for you?
And that's actually, I think, why I had such a passion for real estate, because business, as weird as it may sound, is so freaking similar. They're both networking and people-focused business. With my music, I'd like to say I was the sickest bass player in the world, and we wrote the best songs ever, because we did. But the market didn't say that, right?
Sure.
We got tours was, Joe Schmo's band, Sum 41, they don't hate us, and they wouldn't mind hanging out with us for a month. And they don't think our music sucks, so let's go. Yeah. It wasn't because we did anything. It was because we networked and built relationships and grew those relationships. And real estate's very similar in the fact that there's a ton of realtors out there. But I think something like 87% fail within the first 2 years. So there's a lot of noise and you got a lot of competition.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the people who truly do offer value and who care about their people, their clients, stand out from the masses, I think.
And
So,
I know you made the point that, I mean, you'll have a lot of people dropping off. And I mean, it seems to be something right now that's kind of the hot thing to try, because it's kind of, you get to be, in a sense, your own boss and make it yourself. What
yeah.
would you say, in your opinion, have you found that like most people who try and end up not being successful or moving away from it, what would you say is the biggest thing about it that makes that happen?
Probably these might be the same thing, but they think they can do it part-time. And I don't think there's ever going to be a job, no matter what field you're in, where you can do it part-time and make full-time plus income. That's a fairy tale that doesn't exist.
Be nice, but it's not there.
Yeah, this whole and invest X amount and 100% passive income comes your way. Like that's not a real thing, guys.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anyone who tells you that. That, and then I'm losing my train of thought. Remind me what we're talking about.
What it is that would make you not be successful or kind of want to drop off of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Thank you. So part-time, think it's part-time, and then just think it's easy money. Like I said, I thought maybe they kind of be the same thing, but there's also no job that's going to let you sit around on your couch and eat bonbons all day, drinking a glass of bourbon, and then put 10 grand a month in your bank account.
Yep.
It doesn't work like that. And it's way, way more difficult to earn that salary when there's no one waking you up in the morning and no one reprimanding you for not showing up at X amount and not doing the work on this night that you said you would, et cetera, et cetera. It just means it hurts your pocketbook at the end of the day.
Awesome. So, I mean, I guess that kind of segues me into what I'd like to talk about to kind of wrap. I know there's a lot of people who are going to be either first-time buyers or might even have interest in getting into real estate investment, or even just want to pursue a career as a real estate agent.
Sure.
I guess we can kind of start out just with some tips or tricks. Like if you're looking into becoming a first-time buyer, what are a couple things that you should really pay attention to or look into before kind of jumping into it?
Yeah. Number one, I think, is don't hesitate to reach out early. And I'm talking at least a year in advance of when you plan on getting serious about buying. Because 9 times out of 10, doesn't matter what price point people are at, we go to get them approval for a loan, dig into their financials, and there's always some surprise hits on your credit. There's always some things that you've kind of pushed to the wayside and forgotten about, that don't really affect anything in your day-to-day. But when you go to buy that house and get approved for that loan, you don't want to get approved for a shack. But that's stuff that can be taken care of and remedied. You just need some help through that, and the right people will help you through that, even if it takes a year plus time. So that is finding a realtor you actually like and get along and trust with, and then taking recommendations from that to talk to a lender and start getting your credit together. That, and then once you've talked to those guys, just taking their advice, putting together a game plan for the next year. I think just planning and reaching out early are 2 most important steps that would save a lot of people some stress later on.
Okay. Those are, I mean, big. And
yeah, absolutely.
You probably shouldn't jump into the investment of buying a house if you haven't planned much for it. So,
well, and you'd be surprised how often people try to do that. So
I can imagine. How about for people who might be interested in looking into a career as a real estate agent? Would you say there's anything that they should keep an eye out for, or something they should consider before kind of jumping into that?
I would network as much as you can and try. I mean, it's pretty easy to look up top producing agents in your area and brokers, and one of them would be happy to sit down with you and share their personal experience. So it's definitely not a lifestyle that works for everyone. Like I said, it's not something you do part-time and earn a full-time income, I think, at least. And you work weird hours because when your $7-figure client needs to close on a house, well, you better be sure as hell that your schedule's free. Doesn't matter what you got going on personally. So you've definitely got to be willing to work a little different schedule than most people are, and sometimes work some really long hours. But at the end of the day, you know, you're working for yourself and you're earning the reward, not corporate. So
sure, that makes sense. And the last thing that I've got here for you would be, I mean, everybody hears about it, flipping houses.
oh yeah,
Obviously, it goes back into with real estate. You have to make it a full-time job. You have to put in the effort for it. I'm sure that's very much the same thing for flipping a house. Is there anything to really look out for people who might be interested in either just investing in real estate or getting into kind of the flipping side of things? Anything to look out for?
oh yes, yes, so many. So I've actually got a deal going on right now that's a perfect example. This gentleman purchased a house through a foreclosure sale, so through master commissioner. I get calls about those all the time because their house is under $100,000. Guys, there's a reason they're under $100,000. Please listen to me when I say that. But he didn't do his homework. He had watched several episodes of what are they called? HGTV, Flip It or Fix It, whatever.
Yeah.
And thought he knew what he was going to do, thought he could watch some YouTube videos and fix it. Well, he didn't have a team in place of trusted advisors, experienced advisors, more importantly, that could literally do a walk around the property and tell you that the structure was about to give out. So he started doing all these renovations and then finds out that his foundation is falling in and there's no way in hell that the city's going to approve for a new family to move in and occupy the property. It's literally bowing from the outside and caving in the back. And this is after they've spent $10,000 on a foundation repair. So doing your homework, taking your time, and having the patience for the right deal. The key is numbers don't lie. So if you run your numbers and do your homework, you're always safe.
Oh, okay, there you are. As soon as you said you're safe, you froze. But no, I mean, I think that's a lot of really good points, a lot of good advice for everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to tell your story. Just like I tell everybody at the end of the episodes, if you have any other ideas that you'd like to have us cover, feel free to shoot us an email, comment in the thread below, let us know people that you'd like us to talk to, things you'd like to hear more about. But Will, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us today. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be thankful for the advice you've been able to give and probably interested in just hearing the story that you've had to tell.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Colin.
Absolutely. Well, just like always, everybody please stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day.